Hello and welcome everyone to the Trusted Advisor Show. I am your host, Rob Jacomen, and once again, I am joined by my co-hosts, Ryan and Devin. How's it going, guys?
I'm good, Rob.
Good,
Excellent.
Rob.
Excellent. So today we've got a really hot topic and something I'm really excited about. I know given the landscape and the environment right now, this is very important to talk about. We're actually going to do an entire series that's dedicated to the 6 key elements of business continuity success. And what we're going to do is we're going to have both Ryan and Devin talk about what that entails and why it's so critical for businesses right now who are going through probably one of the most challenging times that we've ever faced in our history of our economy and even in the business community. And why it's so critical right now to work with your fortress of truly trusted advisor relationships to really start planning and get your company prepared for the coming months and years ahead and really ramp up and start building and growing, because really that's our whole focus on the show. Our whole focus is to add value to small business owners, entrepreneurs, C-suite, you name it. We're going to go into the detail of each of these elements over the next few weeks. And what I'd like to do is, if Ryan, if you could maybe take a few minutes here and explain to our listeners and viewers what these key elements are and why it's so critical for a business owner or a company to actually take action and start implementing in these concepts as part of their planning strategy.
Sure. So I guess it's important to start and understand what is business continuity planning. In our practice, we work and consult with a lot of businesses on what we would call traditional exit planning. So planning for an eventual sale of the business, but in many cases, there's a long runway between the day you open your doors and the day that you either decide to voluntarily exit your business or involuntarily exit your business. But there's that space in between where, you're building and growing this asset, and that's something that you want to keep that moving in the right direction. So business continuity plans are quite simply an insurance policy for your business, and not in the traditional sense going out to a carrier or someone like yourself and buying. And there are policies built for that, which I'll let you touch on that. But ultimately, it's you developing a plan, a written plan and policy internally with your business that names a couple key people, key processes. It really just kind of is your business in a nutshell. So if for whatever reason, whether it's the owner not being around or in most recent history, COVID-19 shutting down your business involuntarily, how do you keep your business moving in the right direction? How do you mitigate or reduce some of your risks? And then how do you establish a healthy stream of cash flow and or reduce your expenses to a point where, something like this doesn't force you out of business? These are things that are out of many businesses' control. And so we need to focus on, and we like to focus on, how do we get you from point A to point B so that you can ultimately sell your business for the right amount? But also, let's talk about that time in between and how you're protecting your business during that time so that you can preserve value and continue to grow and continue to be in business for the foreseeable future.
Well, what's interesting is the calls that we've been getting is, and also everything I've been seeing out there in social media and the feedback from the business community is, listen, when we're given the orders in various parts of the country, what's our next move? What's our next steps? Because there's so much uncertainty and so much, it's a little fuzzy about, okay, now what do I do next? And not only that, but also following the guidelines that have been established by various government and state and government entities to say, all right, here's the parameters you have to work within. Here are the exposures. Here are the risks. How do you mitigate those risks? All those things and while at the same time trying to keep your business up and running and basically ramp it up to the point where maybe there's a chance you can actually ramp up to where you left off when this whole thing started. And from all the years that I've been working in the risk management world, because first and foremost, I don't look at myself as an insurance guy. I look at myself more as a risk architect, somebody who really architects a plan and a solution for a client based on their unique business. So Devin, based on that, and one of the most important things, part of this planning process is going to be bringing together all of your key advisors and trusted advisors and relationships. What would you advise business owners to be the first step, and maybe taking a step back and saying, wait a minute, let's look at a plan first, and then let's figure out how to bring everybody together who are part of our fortress of relationships to help us execute that plan?
That's a great question, Rob. First, you got to think of all the things that makes your business run, all the operations, all the people, all the relationships. I think one of the first things to do is gather all your key relationships and know exactly what they do for your business and what would happen in certain situations, whether it's your insurance guy, your finance guy, your IT guy. A lot of people don't think about that. Think about all the things that when people had to go to work from home right now, they have all their trusted advisors around them, but their IT company or their in-house IT person, whoever they use, was critical during COVID-19 because in a flash, they had to go from in-office to at home with Zoom or whatever type of conference call software they're using and do that seamlessly. So think of the different disruptions to businesses. I really think we should write them out. What are the chances of a virus happening? What are the chances of an earthquake, a tornado, a flood, a loss of a key employee, somebody leaving, a death, whatever it may be? Think of all these risks that could be happening to your business and rate them out 1 through 5, 1 through 10, however you want to do it. What's the likelihood of that happening? And what are the steps if that does happen? Who are the key players there?
Now,
who do I call?
Key players is one of the things that you just mentioned, Ryan. Shifting to, we want to, for this first one, as we're announcing us launching this series, is we don't want to get too granular, but we really want to get a 30,000 foot view of what a business continuity plan looks like. Because a lot of people, you hear the term out there, but I know for a fact, I know clients and other businesses and other folks I've talked to in various industries, they've never even gone through the process of performing a business continuity plan. So I think maybe that's probably the first step, right? Is to identify the key stakeholders and start to put together the team, assemble the team, both outside trusted advisors, as well as your internal stakeholders of your organization, to get together and start to formulate a strategy and a plan that's unique to that business. Is that kind of what the first steps would be?
Yeah. So, I think it's important as we're going through a 30,000 foot view, maybe we just run through some of those steps, kind of like what those 6 key elements are of the plan, just to summarize those, because I think in future shows, we're going to kind of dive into all of those things and get a little more detail on how those steps actually work. But like you said, the first thing is really establishing a planning committee. So we talk a lot about in our group and on this podcast about establishing a fortress of trusted advisors and having that, board of directors for your company, even as a small to mid-sized business. So this process is no different. We want to start first and foremost. We want to get the key people, your emergency planning team, your business continuity team, into the fold, get them all in the same room and start getting 3, 4, 5 sets of eyes on it to say, if this were to happen, and go through those scenarios. So once you decide who that group is and you get them together, you move on to the second step, which is conducting what's called a business impact analysis. Mm-hmm. So business impact analysis is very similar to what Devin just said. That includes mapping out your potential risks. You want to identify them, you want to quantify them, and then ultimately, you want to measure what's your potential loss, interruption, disruption. You want to put all of those things on paper, write it down.
Yep.
And having that committee really helps you get into the weeds on what your risks are and what you're exposed to. Obviously, with COVID-19, we saw that even our own government was not really 100% prepared to handle that. There wasn't a continuity plan there in terms of handling a pandemic. It was like the last thing at the very, very bottom of the list, but it happened. So we have to take everything into consideration. We do it in our business. I know you guys do it in your business.
Yep.
So that business impact analysis, that's your step 2. The third step is, now that you've identified your risks, how do we mitigate risk? So that is going through, in your world, your commercial insurances. That's setting up IT backups, like Devin mentioned. That could be something like critical functions of the business, cross-training your personnel so that if one or more people in a department are out, someone else can step in and pick that up. So those are just some brief examples of what mitigating risk looks like in building this plan. And then once you've done that, then we move on to step 4, which is establishing your actual strategy. So this is, how are we going to continue running the business in the event that any of these things happen to us? There's a potential for all of them, so we need to prepare for all of them equally and have a playbook, essentially, for all of our employees, that if nobody, when you're in your room with your planning committee, if no one in this room was here, could someone else walk in behind us, pick up a binder and read through it and say, okay, I know what to do. So that's the next step of that process. You have your strategies. Now your 5th step is putting it all together in a consolidated plan, that binder or something somewhere that I just mentioned, where you have your policy, your purpose, the scope of the plan. You're assuming, you have all your assumptions in there. You have laid out who has key responsibilities, what are your risk mitigation plans, what's going to happen in every scenario. And you just put pen to paper and you really get that full comprehensive written plan. And I think it's important to understand too, that these things don't happen overnight. Some of this happens over a course of years as things start to develop, as a business starts to grow, and you always are going to have to monitor and change. If a lot of businesses start adopting work from home, your business continuity plan is going to have to change a little bit. So that would be step 5. It's developing your plan and actually producing a written plan. And then the last step is really just implementation, training, and testing. So implementing the plan, putting it in place, making sure that everyone in your organization knows what it is and where to find it. And then ultimately you want to test run it. Just like a fire drill when we were in school, they make you go, walk in a straight line and go stand outside to make sure we know what to do if the building's burning down. The same is true in business. So we want to run those fire drills, so to speak, so that if something were to happen in the business, we just want to test it out and make sure that the plan holds up in that scenario. So, those are the 6 steps. I think we're going to cover a lot of that in future episodes, but I think for anyone watching this that is wondering, even where to start, I think you start with those 6 steps and then, follow us along this journey to go through each one and how you can implement it in your business as well.
And I think one of the things I wanted to point out is, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions swirling in everyone's head because, they're probably thinking, well, Ryan, Devin, I'm a small business. I have, 7 employees. Or you're also thinking about the person who might be listening who's got, 500 employees and has 4 different locations and has distribution and all these moving parts. So regardless of the size of an organization, this is still beneficial. And, one of the things is you can't do this alone. Maybe what it would take, and if anyone has any questions about this or needs any guidance, it might be worthwhile to enlist the help of someone who can facilitate this whole thing from a business continuity planning standpoint. Is where do we start? How do we corral this? And it might require bringing somebody on like yourselves and myself, for example, to, and I would look at it from a risk management standpoint and insurance. What gaps do you have in your program? Where are there exposures that maybe we missed or maybe your current agent missed? these are all things, and also what safety or risk management initiatives do we have to put in place now to further mitigate this risk in the future? And there's a lot of things changing as we are speaking right now. There is legislation pending in Congress at both the federal and the state level to deal with how do we put the financial metrics to this? Who is going to be held accountable in the future? How do we pay for this? Right. So I think having a single point of contact who can help somebody facilitate this whole process, maybe giving them some initial guidance and help in the beginning and some advisement would be worthwhile. All right. So, Devin, it is so important and so critical for, especially given the unknowns. And, I know how I feel sometimes. It's like when you feel a little overwhelmed with something, I might pick up that phone and call my mentor. I might call, somebody who I really respect to give me some advisement and guidance on, okay, where do I start? How do I put all these pieces together? And sometimes it might take having somebody who is a trusted advisor or a facilitator to come in and help advise you, at least to get the process started.
No, I think it's a great point, Rob. It's almost like auditing your plan, having a second set of eyes on it, like you said. So you create the plan yourself. You talk to your key employees, your managers at your company. You put this continuity plan in place, and you come to your trusted advisor and say, hey, I'd love for you to put your eyes on this to kind of see if you think this is something that would be efficient in these certain circumstances. So I think it's a great idea to have a second set of eyes on these plans that we're discussing today.
Yeah. And we want you to take action. So, we are more than happy to serve you, so if there is someone out there right now who's like, hey, listen, I've got a lot of questions swirling. I, as well as Ryan and Devin, we're happy to provide our expertise and guidance. We won't cost you anything to at least have that conversation. And maybe we can at least give you some initial guidance and direction of where to take this and how to get started and how to corral all these relationships and help you to start formulate a plan. So over the next few weeks, here's what you can expect. You can expect a more deeper dive into each of these key elements of business continuity success. And because we want you to be successful, we want you to be able to execute on these, but we're not going to do this alone. We're going to enlist the help of all of us together, experts, other trusted advisors, people who, we really value and trust in various industries. It may require you to get on a Zoom call with all your trusted advisors and key stakeholders in your company. We can help facilitate that, and we're happy to do that. So Devin and Ryan, how can, and we can talk about a schedule over the next couple of weeks. If you found value to what you're hearing today, please consider subscribing because as we launch these new series, you will then get notified of when the new shows are released. So consider subscribing, hit the like button. And Ryan and Devin, how can folks, if they're interested in taking the next step and want to learn more, how can folks get in touch with you?
So they can find us. Our website is www.StatonWalsh.com. All of our contact info is there. Feel free to reach out to Devin or myself. And you can also email our firm's email address, which we check pretty regularly, but that's swinfo@StatonWalsh.com. So we're happy to help and answer any questions that any of the viewers may have.
That's awesome. And, I've been getting IM'd left and right on LinkedIn. So that's another way that people can reach out to us is just shoot us an IM in LinkedIn. Even if it's a question or you just need a little bit of guidance, we are happy to provide that to you. So, hey guys, thanks so much. Be on the lookout for the shows that are coming and, this whole series. We're really excited about it. We want there to be tremendous value for you and help you truly take your business to the next level and see you succeed. That's our goal. We want you to be successful, and we are literally willing to do anything it takes to help you along this journey, because it's not going to take just the effort of one person. It's going to take the effort of a business community, all of us getting together and really combining our forces to really bring this economy back and to make things happen. So guys, I really appreciate your time. I will put links in the description below where you can get access to some of these resources and get in touch with us if you so desire. But listen, be on the lookout for our next episodes, and really appreciate your time, guys.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. See you on the next show. Take care.